There is a filing cabinet in a county office in southeastern Wisconsin. Second drawer. Manila folders, the cheap kind, the kind that hold dog licenses and rabies records and complaints about a neighbor's fence. In 1991, a reporter stood in front of that drawer, while a county animal control officer went through it, looking for something. He found it. He set it on the desk. The label was handwritten, in ballpoint. It said, "Werewolf." Not as a joke, it had a dozen reports inside it, from taxpayers, with dates. Folklore is not supposed to generate paperwork. That's the whole point of folklore. It lives in mouths. Campfires, sleepovers, the back of a school bus. It doesn't get typed up. It doesn't get a case number. It does not get a budget line. The archive has 3 exceptions. This is the archive. It keeps the recordings that stop before the story does. But this file isn't about what got recorded. It's about 3 legends that got filed. 3 times a monster crossed out of rumor and into a government drawer. Arkansas, 1971. Wisconsin, 1991. Japan, 1979. 2 of them left a paper trail. The 3rd left nothing at all. That's the one the archive can't get rid of. Entry 1. Miller County, Arkansas. Down where the pine bottoms crowd the road and the Sulphur River spreads out into swamp. Bobby and Elizabeth Ford were newlyweds in a rented house outside Fouke. Screens instead of storm windows. Woods pressed up against the back of it. The night of May 1st, Elizabeth was asleep on the couch. She woke up because something came through the screen. A hand. Or something. With fingers. She said later she thought it was a bear. She said there were eyes above it, and the eyes were red. She screamed. Bobby and his brother Don were just back from hunting and came at a run with guns. Whatever it was went into the trees. They fired. They didn't hit anything they could find. Here's the part that stays with the archive. They stayed. Didn't drive into town. Didn't call anyone yet. It was late. It was rural. They had guns. They were young. So they stayed in the house. For about an hour, nothing happened. Just after midnight, technically now the 2nd of May, Bobby stepped out onto the porch. It grabbed him across the shoulders. He said it came from the side, that it was fast, that it got an arm around him and pulled. He went down on the boards, got free, he never fully explained how, and he went through the front door, not through the doorway. He said he ran so hard he went through the door itself. They took him to St. Michael Hospital in Texarkana. Staff treated him for scratches down his back and for shock. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't high. He was, by every account of everyone who touched him that night, a man who had just had something happen to him. And in the morning he did the thing that turns a story into a document. He reported it to the Fouke constable, officially. Somebody in an office had to sit down and write out a description of a 7-foot thing with a 3-foot chest and red eyes the size of silver dollars, and put a date on it and file it, because a taxpayer made a report and that's what the job requires. Deputies went out. They found claw marks in the siding. They found tracks. And the tracks were the problem. 3 toes. No primate leaves a 3-toed print. No bear does. Whatever made those tracks was either something science has never cataloged, or it was somebody's brother-in-law with a board and a hammer. An archaeologist who examined some of them said exactly that. Hoax. The archive files both. It closes neither. A Texarkana Gazette reporter named Jim Powell picked it up, gave it a name, the Fouke Monster, and the wire services took it. Inside a month, a town of a few hundred people had become a destination. And Sheriff Leslie Greer had to do the single strangest thing in this entry. He had to issue a no-shooting order. Not because of the monster, because of the people. Because a couple hundred armed strangers were standing in a swamp, firing at movement in the dark, and the mathematically likeliest thing they were going to hit was each other. That's the shape of it. A legend doesn't become real when the monster shows up. It becomes real when the paperwork does. When a sheriff has to allocate manpower. When a hospital has an admission record. When a constable has a report on file with a date on it. Nobody has ever explained what was on that port. Arkansas at least had an excuse. Deep swamp. Deep woods. 1971. A place where a large unknown animal is at least arguable. 20 years later it happened again. In a farming county in Wisconsin. 90 minutes from Chicago. On a paved road. With nowhere for anything to hide. And the county sat on it for a year. Before the press knew. Entry 2. Walworth County, Elkhorn, and Delavan. Dairy country, corn, fences, silos, roads in a grid. Bray Road is a stretch of two-lane that connects nothing to nothing. Fall of 1989. A bar manager named Lorian Andresi is driving home late. She comes around a curve and her headlights catch what she takes for a person kneeling on the shoulder. She slows, because that's what you do. Someone on the shoulder at that hour is someone who needs help. She gets close enough to see it's holding something in its hands. Eating it. Roadkill. Then it turns its head and looks at her. She said the face was long. She said the eyes threw her headlights back at her. Yellow. She drove. She didn't report it, and the archive wants this specific detail on the record because she didn't have a word for it. Around Christmas of 1990, an 11-year-old named Heather Bowie is walking home from sledding with friends, and they see what they think is a big dog in a cornfield about a block off. So they call it. Because you call a dog. It heard them. It stood up, and it took 4 steps toward them. Badly. She said it walked like something that wasn't used to walking that way. Halloween night, 1991. An 18-year-old named Dorothy Gibson is driving Bray Road near the Hospital Road intersection, and her right front tire jolts. That heavy roll of a wheel going over something big. She stops. She gets out. Because you check. There's nothing on the road behind her. Then something comes at her out of the ditch. She got back in. She said it hit the back of the car as she accelerated. Got onto the trunk, couldn't hold because it had been raining, and slid off. And she drove. Later that night, she went down the same road with a little girl she was taking trick-or-treating, saw a shape on the shoulder, and told the kid to lock her door. Next morning, she showed a neighbor the scratches on the car, and that's where this stops being folklore. Because Dorothy talked to a neighbor, and Heather talked about it on the school bus, and the bus driver heard it, and the bus driver happened to be Lorianne Andresi's mother. 3 people, 3 separate years, 3 stories they'd each kept to themselves, because saying it out loud makes you the person who says it out loud. And the same road. Andresi's mother took it to a reporter at the local weekly in Elkhorn. Her name was Linda Godfrey. She was new, she was skeptical, and she had to fight to get it into print, because no editor wants that on a front page. So before she wrote it, she did the responsible thing. She went to the Walworth County Animal Control Officer, a man named John Fredrickson, and asked, as a formality, "Have you heard anything about this thing on Bray Road?" And he opened his desk and pulled out a manila folder with a stack of reports already in it. The tab said, werewolf. Godfrey said afterward that she was a novice reporter, but that even a novice knows that when a county official is keeping a file on werewolves, you no longer have a rumor, you have a story. It ran December 29, 1991. The paper printed a cartoon with it because they thought it was a fun, seasonal piece everyone would forget by New Year's. Instead, the phone started ringing and kept ringing. People came out of the woodwork with accounts going back decades, reports the county had never connected because no single person had ever been unhinged enough to file them all in one place. Except one man had, in a drawer, between licenses and strays. Godfrey spent the next 30 years on it, wrote the book, took the calls, drove the roads. She died in 2025, and the archive notes that she never once claimed to know what it was. Only that a lot of ordinary people with nothing to gain kept describing the same impossible thing on the same 3 miles of pavement. She never solved it. She just refused to throw the folder away. The archive respects that more than an answer. 2 entries, 2 filing cabinets, 2 monsters dumb enough to get themselves written down. The third is different. The third never left a report, a track, or a scratch on a car. There is no folder. There is nothing in the archive to play back. And in 6 months it shut down schools in a country of 116 million people and put police cars on the street. And it did all of it without ever existing at all. Entry 3. Late 1978. Yaotsu, a small town in Gifu Prefecture, in the middle of Japan. A farming family's grandmother tells someone she saw a woman standing at the corner of the garden. The woman's mouth was cut open, slit, ear to ear. That's it. That's the entire origin. One old woman, one garden, one sentence. On January 26, 1979, a columnist at the local Gifu Daily mentions in passing that the children in the area have been repeating a rumor about a strange, beautiful woman. That's the entire paper trail. A passing mention. A column. 6 months later, the country is in a panic. Here's how she moved, and this is the part the archive considers genuinely frightening. Japan in 1979 had cram schools, evening classes, kids from a dozen different school districts meeting after dark, in one room, with nothing to do between lessons but talk. So a rumor from one district goes into that room at 7 o'clock and comes out at 9, riding 12 kids back to 12 different neighborhoods. Then each of those neighborhoods does the same thing the next night. She didn't spread like a story. She spread like an infection. And the cram schools were the transit system. The rules of her, and every child in Japan had these rules within weeks, without anyone teaching them. She waits for a child walking alone. She wears a surgical mask, which in Japan is nothing, which in Japan means she is being considerate. She asks you, "Am I pretty?" If you say no, she kills you. That part is simple. If you say yes, she takes the mask off. And then she asks you again, "Am I pretty like this?" And there is no answer. That's the design of her. Yes is a lie, and she knows it. No is a death sentence. The question is a trap with no correct output, which is exactly the kind of thing a 9-year-old understands in their body long before they can explain it. So the children built escape hatches, themselves, nationally, within weeks. Say so-so, say you're average, confuse the trap, or shout the word pomade 3 times, hair pomade, from a rumor out of Yaizu that a woman had scared the thing off by yelling it, and she recoils. Now here's where the archive stops being able to call this a story, because the adults responded. In Koriyama, in Fukushima Prefecture, patrol cars, Sent out. Assigned. On a shift schedule. In Hiratsuka, in Kanagawa. The same. In Kushiro, up in Hokkaido. And in Niza, in Saitama. Group dismissal. Nobody walks home alone. Teachers escorting children out to the road. Surgical mask sales went up. That was reported in the national press as an economic effect. And on June 21st, 1979, in Himeji, police arrested a 25-year-old woman who had put on a mask and gone into the street with a kitchen knife. She wasn't the monster. There was no monster. She had just heard the story too many times and decided to become it. That's what the archive can't file. Every other entry here has a physical residue. Fouke has a hospital record and a wrecked door. Bray Road has a folder and a scratched car and 30 years of interviews. Kuchisake-onna has nothing. No body, no track, no photograph, no recording. There was never anything to record. A grandmother. A grandmother said one sentence about a garden in a town of a few thousand people, and within 6 months, a modern industrialized nation was allocating police overtime. She was never real, and the response to her was completely real. Both are true at once, and neither cancels the other. And then, in August, the summer holidays started. The cram schools closed. The children stopped meeting in that one room after dark. And she stopped. Not because anyone caught her. Because the network went down. She didn't need a body. She needed mouths. When the mouths stopped touching, she starved. The archive keeps recordings. 2 of these it can keep. Arkansas is on paper. Wisconsin is in a drawer. Somebody wrote them down, and because somebody wrote them down, they'll outlive everyone who saw them. The 3rd, there's nothing to keep. There never was. She only ever lived in one format, and you've just been told the rules. The mask, the question. So-so, pomade, 3 times. You know them now. You'll know them tomorrow. In 11 months, you'll have forgotten every date in this file. Fouke, Bray Road, the sheriff, the folder. And you will still know what to say if a woman in a mask asks you whether she's pretty. The archive didn't preserve her. It just moved her. Every recording ends somewhere.